The liquid salt brine. Let me just demonstrate. So a good rule of thumb, again, I'm keeping it really simple. We can go into the calculations of everything. I'm going to put a chart down below after we do this masterclass. But for me, as I said, I like to keep things simple. And I know that if I'm doing a dry salt brine like the sauerkraut, it's usually about 4 teaspoons per head of cabbage or per kilo of cabbage. Sorry. If it's a smaller head of cabbage, then I just reduce the salt a little bit. And then for a liquid salt brine, my go-to is just about 2 tablespoons of pink salt in a liter of water. And I create like a little brine bath for it before I start working on the ingredients to go into my liquid salt brine. And liquid salt brines are generally best for things like chunky veggies, like pickles or any kind of veggie that doesn't have a lot of water content. So think about things like, carrot, um, what else? Chunks, just chunky veggies, carrots, celery. What else do we like to put in pickles? Radishes, just when you get keeping your veggies chunky like that, a liquid salt brine is the best. But what I'm also discovering and having fun with is, for example, if I don't want to go through the whole process of massaging for a dry salt brine and I do want to create a recipe, I just keep my veggies super chunky and I put them all in a liquid salt brine. And then when I'm finished with them, I might, strain off some of the brine and then put the rest in a blender and have, like you'll see now with the salsa that I'm making. It'll end up being nice and chunky at the end, or it can even be blended into a hot sauce because it's going to be chucked into a blender or a food processor after the fermentation process is done. So back to the liquid salt brine. So this is going to get messy. So I'm just going to do this over the bucket. So I've got about 2 cups of water in here. And I'm going to add my salt, which is, what did I say? 2 tablespoons. I'm going to give that a little stir. I'm going to let that sit for a minute or two before I add more water. So it gets to about a liter of water. And then I'll stir again. So that's going to sit there for a little bit. That's the bath that it goes in. And then once that's done, I'm going to then I have pre-cut my veggies here. So this is the fermented spicy salsa recipe here. But the one that you've got here is more like you're pre-chopping the veggies. You're actually creating the ferment with some probiotic capsules in this one. So it's the recipe base is the same, but I've just changed it to a liquid salt brine method. Now I have a video on this particular recipe on YouTube if you want to watch it and see how I did it. But basically it's about 8 Roma tomatoes, which I have pre-chopped. But note that I've de-seeded them. So this is taking out all the seeds inside first. So we're just left with the flesh. This is one of the secrets to getting a nice chunky salsa. So there's about 8 Roma tomatoes that have been pre-chopped and de-seeded there as well. Then I've also got about half a cup of sun-dried tomatoes going in. And then of course the peppers. So I've got about 8 chili peppers here that I haven't de-seeded. I've kept them with the seeds in because it just gives it that little extra kick and spice and fire. You'll find with any kind of ferment when you're using chilies that the heat isn't as intense. It's kind of a softer and it gives a more rounded heat and it's much more pleasant, which is probably why I'm addicted to this because it doesn't have that harshness that, that you can sometimes get when you're using peppers and spice. And then, of course, the beautiful Balinese celery herb, which is the most divine flavor. Of course, you could be using coriander here if you prefer. Then I've got my ginger chopped, and about 3 cloves of garlic, roughly chopped. And I'm also going to throw in about 2 teaspoons of raw sugar. That's going to help give you that beautiful flavor profile and it's nice and sweet as well. And I've also got about 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika. And And I'm going to add a little bit of apple cider vinegar just for that acidity. And I'm just going to go fill the rest of the jar and then we're going to get packing. I'm going to pour this water into the jar. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so I'm just going to give that a little stir. And I also wanted to, oh yeah, I wanted to throw in an onion. So I'm just going to quickly roughly chop this onion. You guys see this? You can see this. Just going to get that out of the way. Just going to peel off the outer layer. And it doesn't really matter how you pack this. It's just everything is going in the liquid salt brine. So really, you can just add in whatever you like first. I might just throw in the paprika first. And the sugar. And a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Give it a little stir. And throw in my ginger and garlic. Onions. And the de-seeded tomatoes. And my peppers. Yep, I'm going to overfill the jar a little. If this happens, then I just strain off a little bit of the liquid. Just going to strain it off. Okay, now that's looking better. So now that we've got everything in there, see if I've got room to put any more tomato in. Beautiful. I'm going to pop the glass plate on. It's pretty full, so this one's definitely going to need a plate. But you can see how much quicker that was to prepare because I'm not massaging the veggies. I'm roughly chopping, keeping them rather large because we're using the liquid salt brine method. And again, that will be on the bench to ferment for 5 to 7 days. And again, it really is personal preference. You know, if you want to let it ferment for longer, please do. You'll know when it's ready when you start to see the bubbles coming up and you'll maybe get some spill over the top through the lid. That's why I recommend putting the plate or a bowl underneath the ferment. Now, what I'm going to also recommend you guys do when it is ready, strain off all the brine into another jar and keep that brine because you can use that to kickstart another ferment. Or what I love to do is I just like to drink the brine as a tonic. It's so incredibly good for you. Just think about all those beautiful medicinal herbs and veggies in there that have been fermented and that fire, that kick that you get from the ginger and the peppers. This is brilliant for flu season, colds, so keep that in the jar as a medicinal in the fridge as a medicinal tonic. And drink it, but also keep a quarter of a cup of that brine to go into the blender because you're going to strain off the brine, put a quarter of a cup into the blender along with all the veggies that have been fermented and then blend it to your desired consistency. So I'm going to show you one that I made earlier. So this is the chunky salsa. So this was just done in the blender. And as you can see, I've kept it relatively chunky. There's, bite-sized pieces of onion in there, which I love because this is great to put on top of corn on the cob, baked sweet potato, any Mexican dish, of course. It's just so freaking delicious. But if you wanted to, you could just keep blending it until it's smooth, and then you've got a beautiful fermented hot sauce. So there you have it, guys. So today we covered how to care for the kit and how to get a successful ferment every time by following those 4 steps that we went through with the equipment and the packing of the jar and making sure the brine's rising to the top, putting the weight in, doing the pump with the pump on the lid. And then we went through the liquid salt brine method, doing the fermented spicy salsa. I'm going to make some beautiful Mexican tacos tonight to have with this and guacamole. I can't wait. So delicious. And I will pop the fermenting calculations for you as well down below. And don't forget to comment, or if you've got any extra questions or want something extra covered, let me know and I will do another little session for you guys as well. Thanks for joining.